Tune Into Care is produced in Meanjin, Brisbane on Turrbal and Yuggera country. We acknowledge the traditional owners as the custodians of this land, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. Tune Into Care is brought to you by Wellways Carer Gateway. Carer Gateway is an Australian government initiative providing free services and support for carers. Welcome back to episode 2 of Tune Into Care, a podcast exploring the lives of carers and sharing practical ways to ease the burdens that carers might be carrying as they navigate this chapter of their lives. We've got a wonderful episode to bring you today, featuring 2 very special people from the Wellways Carer Hub in Cairns. Because this is a podcast about carers, we'll begin with Sally, whose story I think many people will find inspirational. Sally, it is so great to have you involved, so thank you for being a part of this.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I think the best way to get into it is if you can tell me, who is Sally?
Okay. Well, I live in Cairns, far north Queensland, and I care for my husband, Greg. He had a stroke 2.5 years ago, and he's pretty needing a lot of support. He needs someone with him all the time. So if I'm not supporting him myself, I'm organising all the other people who do and making sure that they have the right training and know what they're doing and are nice people and a good fit.
Sally, you mentioned before we started recording that you and Greg have been together a long time. How has his stroke and your shift into the carer role changed that relationship?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I think if a family member has a sudden illness or an injury, it's a real make or break time in your relationship, and it either brings you together because it's like you two against the world, or you separate because it's too hard for you both to find your way. And fortunately for Greg and myself, it really brought us closer together. And even though we'd been together for 35 years, we decided we would get married. And so we had a beautiful wedding ceremony in our garden. So yeah, that's a really, really great memory for us now.
That's so important, isn't it, for him and for yourself? Now, 2.5 years of caring, and like you just said, it's a full-time job. How do you manage yourself outside of just having to manage the household and look after Greg?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. Because it's stressful and things go wrong, and I think I'm always a little bit frightened that Greg's going to have another stroke or have a nasty seizure, and so I'm always a little bit on edge. So it is really important to also manage myself and take care of myself, and I think Carer Gateway's really taught me that. I don't think I would have probably formalised that so much in my thinking without the support of Carer Gateway, because they are all about encouraging you to do those things, so, and then providing you with the resources and the support to do it. So I would have to answer your question and say with a lot of help from Carer Gateway. It's all about making sure that you're, even though you really want to run yourself into the ground, doing everything you possibly can, you can't do that, you can't sustain that. So it's about really making sure that you take time, or you do whatever therapy or practice or whatever you need.
Which is so important for yourself. And You've mentioned Carer Gateway. They have some great services available to carers. When did you first learn that these were there for you?
Probably a couple of months after Greg had his stroke, and we were out trying to get some sunshine on the Esplanade in Cairns, and we met a really lovely couple, Heath and Catherine, and Catherine worked for Carer Gateway, so she gave me a card and said, you should take this because, you're a carer now. And I remember thinking, I'm not a carer. What's she talking about? I just had this idea that a carer was, I don't know, someone who made it their career, or somebody who, I always thought about, mums with babies who were born with, severe disabilities, and it just didn't seem to sort of fit me. And so I just put it in my pocket and forgot about it for a bit. But then, the stress started to build.
It started to burn a hole in your pocket. Yeah.
It did. And I started to feel like I was struggling, coping, and I remembered it, and I rang the number, and that was really how it all started. And I did a peer support group first up. which was really helpful. Just it was like a toe dip into the world of caring and meeting other people who were in similar but not the same situations, and so that really certainly helped in that way. But they also offer all sorts of things like counselling and coaching, and I've definitely put my hand up for them too. So there's a lot of there's a big variety of different services that you can choose from.
Now, you mentioned that you and Greg, you went to the Esplanade to have a bit of time out together. What do you do as a carer to have time out for yourself?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's quite a hard thing to do. And I can remember just recently things were getting a bit overwhelming for me, and I remember thinking, I just need to get out. I need to go somewhere else so that I don't keep getting pulled back into the sadness or the tragedy or the difficulties that my partner's having. But I felt like there was nowhere to go, because you could go to a cafe, but you just sit there and you have a coffee, and then it's time to go, and you're not really relaxing or having quiet time to yourself. So it really wasn't until Carer Gateway developed their hub that I realised now there is a place to go, and it's a space just for people who support others who need to have some time out. And so whatever your time out is, you can do there. So they're set up for, if you want to do drawing, there's drawing and paints there. If you want to just go to sleep and have a rest, there's this beautiful massage chair in this really quiet room. You can just actually have some real quiet time.
I understand that you were actually involved in the co-design of the Carer Hub in Cairns. How did you get involved in that? I
got a message saying, hey, we're thinking of opening a hub in Cairns. As a carer, would you like to come and give your input? And I was really honoured to, be able to do that. So I met with a whole bunch of other people who support others in Cairns, and we met at the venue where the hub was going to start up, and we were invited to walk around and say what we thought worked, didn't work, what we would change, what we would like in there. And so, we really got to dream it up from the bare bones of what it was. And then we all went and had lunch together, and it was just a beautiful connection and sharing, and all of our suggestions were taken really seriously and really valued. And, we did feel valued in that moment. We felt like, wow, someone actually cares what we think. And this actually is going to be a good place, because, they're asking us what it is we need. So it's actually probably going to really serve us.
Why is it important to have that moment of feeling valued as a carer?
Yeah, I think when you are navigating the health system and the NDIS systems, and you or the person that you're caring for is in great difficulties, it's you feel quite downtrodden, and not necessarily regarded in a lot of ways. There are wonderful individuals who really do try their best, but the whole system's a difficult thing to be personal in that system. So you do feel a bit sometimes lost in the system, and not listened to and not heard. And so for someone to want to hear your viewpoint is special and different, and that was really lovely. But also I think too that when you're caring for someone else, you can become very absorbed with your role, because you're very responsible for another person who's very vulnerable. And so all the time you're thinking about them and what's best for them and what works for them, and what's going to make them happy and what's going to keep them healthy. And you sort of lose a bit of touch really of, your own self and what you think and feel and need. And so to have an organisation come in and ask you, what do you need? You tell us, is kind of like, it was surprising and really beautiful to be seen. I think we felt seen in that moment, and that's a rare treasure. Yeah,
it's really beautiful. Being involved with the hub was obviously, would you call it a turning point in your time as a carer?
Yeah, it was, because it's when I met a lot of people who work for the organisation, and I started to see how the vision of the organisation played out in their work, and I think, I wholly respect the way they approach their work, which is always carer-centred, and it's a rare thing in any organisation that everything that they think and plan and do and produce is done not just in consultation with carers, but also the involvement of carers. So it keeps it real and it keeps it useful, and that's pretty special.
Let's say I'm a carer listening to this right now, and I'm thinking, maybe I should pop into the hub, but I'm a bit reluctant. What can they experience when they go, and why should they go?
Yeah. So I would really, really urge them to just go in and be brave if you're feeling a bit nervous about it. I can talk about the hub in Cairns because that's where I live. So it's really easy to find. It's right next to the library. And I think one of the best things about the hub that you'll notice initially is the hub navigator lady who works there. Her name's Donna. She's so warm and welcoming, and you feel like you can. It's like going to visit family almost. That there's a person there who is there for you,
That's nice,
and they welcome you in, and it's a beautiful building, and it's really comfortable. There's no like someone sitting behind a desk saying take a number or have you got an appointment. It's just instant welcoming. You can sit down, you can have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. If you're hungry, they're toasty machines, and it feels a little bit like going to someone's house. But, if you're actually looking for some practical help too, you can access a lot of partner organisations through the hub. So you can go in and you can have the conversation and you can be a little bit more relaxed about what you're asking, and you can say, well, would it work like this, or how would I do this? And there'll be someone there just for you with, really understanding carer situations and disability situations to help you. And so they have a whole range of different services like that you can access through the hub. It
is a full-time job being a carer, and it might seem like this is wonderful. I know that the hub's there for me and it's so easy for me to go and access. But some days it might feel like you just don't get a break. Is that right?
Yeah, most days are like that. And so really, I think if you want to use this service, you're going to have to be a little bit strict with yourself and say, I'm going to dedicate from 10 till 12 on Tuesday. I'm going to go to the hub.
But is that more about, that's self-care for yourself rather than being strict, isn't it?
Yes.
And how important is that?
Very important, because if you don't look after yourself as a person supporting another person, particularly if it's full-time, you will eventually crumble. You won't be able to sustain it, or you'll get sick. And then how much use will you be to your person then if you are unable to care for them? So it's a really important balancing act to be aware of yourself, care for yourself, and then you can care for your other person.
2.5 years into caring now, how do you feel about being a carer?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question too, because first of all, it was a really big shock. It was like my whole life just flipped upside down, and everything that I had imagined that was going to happen in my future was now not happening that way. And, people used to talk to me about the new normal, and I used to get really annoyed with them. But it is true that you eventually, when you get over the shock of the change, you adapt to what is now become normal. And you could look at it as being, a burden or something really difficult that you have to, carry or live with for the rest of your life. But I think if you approach the role with recognizing the honor that it is to take care of somebody else and the opportunity that there is for really unconditional love there, it can be an extremely rewarding experience. If you're, out there listening and you're feeling burdened, look for that love and go with that, because that's the answer to all of it. It really does get you through it all.
And in what ways has Carer Gateway helped you? What would you say is special about this organisation?
Good question. So, I think it's just been a handhold through that whole journey, which was a difficult journey to start with, and I feel like things are turning around now, and then I don't feel that everything is so much of a struggle, and I can now see opportunities for myself and for my partner as well moving forward that are hopeful and joyful. And I think for me the biggest draw card for the hub is that it is for you. If you are supporting somebody else, this is a place where you are the focus of attention, you are the recipient of the goods and the support, and there's nowhere else like that for people who support others. If you're lucky enough to have a really big, strong family around you, you probably do get that. But if you're finding yourself feeling a little bit alone, it's almost like a family that will adopt you in and support you in the way you need.
Why is that important, do you think?
Well, because it's just so hard to do things on your own. Yeah, everybody needs that human connection, and it's so good for you to be seen and heard and valued because the role you're playing is crucial. It's a very important role. So it's almost like what you're giving to your person that you're looking after, you're getting that for yourself too.
It's really nice, isn't it, to know that is there.
Yeah.
And it's a really special thing to be involved. And I think the fact that you're able to share your story now, as I've said, 2.5 years on, and Greg has the most wonderful supportive partner in you. You're now married, and your son is thriving at the moment as well. So it's a credit to yourself and to Greg where you're at. Thank you for joining us for this episode. It's so great to hear your story, and hopefully it has helped others along their journey as well.
I really hope so. Thanks, Philly.
That was such a pleasure talking to Sally, and a huge thanks to her for flying down from Cairns and away from her husband Greg to be a guest on the podcast. Now, to round out this episode, we wanted to hear the perspective of someone working at the Carer Hub, and we thought who better to do that than Donna, the Cairns Carer Hub navigator that Sally mentioned earlier in the episode. Donna, it's so great to have you involved in the podcast. We had the chance to catch up with Sally, and she spoke so glowingly about her involvement with the hub in Cairns. I'd love to know who you are and what your involvement is.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege and an honour to be here. My name is Donna Raymond. I am the Carer Hub navigator for the Wellways Carer Gateway hub in Cairns. It's a brand new, open, safe space for people to land. And I will say this, it's an absolute blessing to be able to welcome people who support and care for others into a safe space where they can exhale. They can take a moment for themselves to pause, rest, relax, access the services if they need to, simply have a cup of tea or come and have a chat with me.
One of the things Sally said was, I think one of the best things about the hub that you'll notice initially is the hub navigator lady who works there. Her name is Donna. She's so warm and welcoming, and you just feel like you're going to visit family.
Makes me really giggle.
Does it?
Yeah.
It must feel nice to hear that the impact that you have on not just Sally, but others.
Absolutely. And I put a lot of intention into bringing the heart into that space. It's actually part of the vision that I want to create for the Cairns Hub, and I know that other navigators have that intention as well, is that, we operate on the principle of the no wrong door approach. And I love that model where people can come through the doors and you're welcomed with a smile. I get to be able to kind of lean in and get curious of what people need and to meet them where they're at. And I love the model of the hub as a warm touch point, and it's informal. So I get to connect with people on a really person-centered approach, which allows me to operate with integrity as well. That means a lot to me.
Is that what makes the Cairns Hub so special?
Well, I think all hubs will be special in their own right. I think what makes the Cairns Hub special is that the people that are in the hub, so there's other staff members as well, we all have this lived experience. And the energy of Cairns is very warm and welcoming. We have a slower rhythm, and that's the beautiful part about the hub model. What's going to work in Cairns is going to be completely different to what works in Bundaberg, Rockhampton, Campbelltown, Nambour, so on and so forth. And I like that we have that community-centred approach, that when people come into the Cairns Hub, I've lived in the area for a long time. I have an understanding of what that rhythm is, of what the needs of people might be, and I'm curious and open enough to listen and to let those who support other people guide that conversation as well, so I can help connect them and navigate to where they want to go.
What does a day-to-day look like in your hub?
On a rotating basis, we will have different activities. We will have different carers coming into the hub utilising that space. So day to day it fluctuates, but in amongst the hub pulse, it also has moments of quiet spaces, which are actually really important too, because it's important for people to come in and to be able to access stillness, to not have to feel like they have to be anywhere or that they have to do all these things, that they just have a moment to connect with themselves, to tune in to what it is that they need. And when you provide that space for people, it allows them to gather their thoughts and to take that next step. I've had many conversations before, and a lot of carers would say the only places that they had to go were the shopping centres or the library. And after a while, they become a little bit bland or maybe overstimulating. So the hub is a really beautiful space for them to access to do what they will, whether it's creative projects, coming in to access the library, having a cup of tea, having a yarn, meeting other people there, accessing the services, meeting the coach, the in-person peer support, the counsellors, the vocational navigators, the partners, or using that co-design piece, which I really love, where they get to share what they would like to experience in the hub. And that's my role, is I get to connect all those pieces together and create something beautiful.
Carers might find it overwhelming to change their day and go do something different, like you said. But why should they visit if they're thinking about it?
Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? So
it's true.
And I just connect with my lived experience, because before I went on this journey, I didn't identify as a carer. That language, language creates connection. So I thought that a carer was a paid support worker. And so I didn't know that Wellways existed. I didn't know about Carer Gateway. And so if I go back in time to my journey when I may have needed this, even the hub model would have been so valuable to know that there was a space for me to go to ask the silly questions or to see some resources there that I could read. I think it's important for people to have places to go where they feel safe, welcome, and that there's a sense of belonging. But not only that, the people that they're meeting understand their journey. They understand the demands of their roles and responsibilities, and maybe that, they're operating at max capacity to be able to help share that load. I look at people sometimes and I am in awe and inspired of, how much people can take on. And normally in these roles, you just do it because it's your family, it's your friend, your relative, and you keep on keeping on and you forget about yourself. And so just because you can make something look easy doesn't mean that it's not hard.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that the load isn't heavy. And where the hubs can come in is you can access people that have experience that can help ease that load a little bit, so that you can take the breath and then figure out what it is that you need to move forward, so that you have your sense of emotional, mental health and well-being intact, so that you can keep doing what you need to do.
It was so nice to hear Sally talk about her experience in the co-design and why that was special for her, because again, she felt like she was a part of something. Do you notice that with most carers when they come through, that they're back being a part of something, and that's what makes them feel alive again?
Absolutely, and I encourage those conversations too. What I'm really fascinated about is carer-led activities. So through co-design, we've flipped the model, and because we're person-centred, it's human first, which is beautiful. So we create space to listen to their needs, and everybody has different needs, different ideas, different visions, and I've heard some really amazing ideas and fun stories, and asking people what it is that they would like to see in the space, but not only see, but what they'd like to contribute. Sometimes people need an invitation. There is such a wealth of wisdom, talent, creativity, energy, ingenuity, innovation, all wrapped up in every single person that crosses through that door. Sometimes they don't have capacity to share that for their journey, it doesn't mean that it's not there. So I'm really inspired to create invitations and opportunities where those people can share and express that and feel empowered that they can step into becoming the leader of their own lives. Not only that, that they're sharing that with new people that may not identify with what we know as a carer. And I think that's a really key piece about building community, is to be able to share our stories in a way that touches the hearts and the lives of those people that might be hidden, that need these supports and these access, or the community, because social isolation is a really big component of the caring journey, and that's a beautiful way to remedy it.
Donna, you are the perfect person to have as the Hub Navigator. It's been so great to have you in and a part of this podcast, and keep doing the great work up there.
Thank you, I will.
We really hope everyone got something out of that episode with Sally and Donna. Our next episode, we will be talking about carers in more remote areas of Australia and the pressures that being outside of a city can add to their caring journey. To hear more carer stories, subscribe to Tune Into Care on your favourite podcast platform or streaming service. Carer Gateway is an Australian government initiative. If you're a carer in need of support, call Wellways Carer Gateway on 1800 422 737. I'm Billy Bentley. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all that you do.